The being detached does not mean not having emotions. Being detached does not mean caring less or not caring about my work or my life. All those are incorrect beliefs, incorrect notions. All those are your mind running away with and creating more complexity in a very simple pointing. We can say detachment itself is remaining grounded in your conviction in the unreality of the individual and the world. See what is attachment? It requires you to, right? So let's start from this direction. You can only be attached to something if you yourself are a thing. Only one thing can be attached to another. Only one thing can resist another. Only you can only fear if you are a somebody to fear. So all of these notions are resting on the foundation of incorrect beliefs about what I am. They are resting on the foundation of I am a body. I am a mere body. I am a mere person. So true detachment can only arise from an ever maturing and growing understanding of what I am prior to just the appearance of the body, prior to just the appearance of right my self-image. And we can say detachment is remaining grounded in that essence or the impersonal while in the midst of the personal, knowing that you are not a thing that can be attached or detached, that can have a relationship with something else. For example, only an object in this room, the space of this room, can have a relationship with another object in the space of this room. Okay, as a thing, you can have a relationship with another thing. But the space of this room doesn't have a relationship with anything in this room. The space is simply that which allows the objects to be momentarily. Tomorrow that this object is taken out, the space still is. Of course, the example has this limitation, but you get my point. The space itself cannot be attached or detached. The space is pure detachment itself because it is not affected by, damaged by anything that is placed inside the room. It has no concept of clinging or resisting, gaining or losing. So, true detachment can only start to become your experience, our experience, as we begin to wake up to a greater and greater reality of what I am prior to being a thing. Because as a body, right, that's just, you know all the attachments. As a mind, you know all the attachments. So detachment shall not be faked. Don't It shouldn't be pretended, and it cannot be because even if you try to portray it that way inwardly, right, the attachment will kill you. You'll brood over it, and it will remain. So it's not something you can lie to yourself ever about. It is only a byproduct of correct understanding, of being more space-like, acknowledging that you at your essence are that sort of space-like essence, which in which all of this is happening, in which the world is moving, in which the ups and downs are happening, in which the perceived gain or loss is occurring, yet you are not in any way gaining or losing, affected by or moved by the activity. And really becoming more and more grounded in that conviction so that no challenge of life, no hardship, no problem can pull you back into the seeming reality of the world, the seeming perception of gain and loss. As a thing, you always have something to gain, to maintain yourself, and always have something to avoid losing, to avoid, you feeling like you're dying or becoming less or unloved or unsafe. See that that's usually like if you do an inventory of your thinking, it'll always just revolve around what you can add to yourself and attain and achieve so that you feel like a bigger person, like so that you feel safe, secure, loved, appreciated. That's the ego right there. And the other half of your thinking will always be what you can uh, what you have to avoid losing so that you do not become lesser and lesser, so that people don't stop loving you, so that you're no longer unsafe. That's the mechanism of ego. That's like the perceived reality of me as an individual thing, person, body. Even this appearance is happening in what? In what space? That you are. So right now it's almost like we're hypnotized by the drama, not seeing the stage or the screen on which it's happening. When you go to watch a movie, you're so hypnotized by the movie, you're so immersed in the movie that you don't really see the screen. Before the movie starts, you know there's a screen there. The moment the movie starts, it has you hooked. And you don't see the screen anymore. You just see the movie. But the screen is still there. Become aware of the screen and you'll see the screen. So now how to bring this into your personal endeavors and like, obviously there are certain goals or there's things that have to be done or achieved or certain challenges are arising. This is the teaching of acceptance. Acceptance is, as we've discussed in the course, acceptance is not a practice you do to just process your emotions or some little method. Acceptance is your nature, right? As I just discussed, the nature of the space of this room is pure acceptance, pure allowance. It has no conflict with anything inside of the room, and it has no clinging to anything that's in the room either. It's just the pure allowance of whatever is placed inside the room, whether it be gold or garbage. The nature of the space of this room is detachment. The nature of the space of this room is acceptance, pure allowance. So be open to the possibility that your nature, you, awareness, this is nature, is pure allowance, just like the space of this room. When you are not a thing, your nature is pure acceptance, pure allowance, detachment. So now the way that we talk about acceptance in the program, right, in the simple practice of it, is you have to learn to turn your attention away from the mental dialogue, the constant commentary of past and future and who did this to you and why this is happening and what's going on. And because that is the you can say the personal momentum which keeps you hypnotized in just he did this, she did that, I am this, I'm going to become that. Just the perceived reality of me, this person, and this world. It keeps you hypnotized into the appearance of the world, hindering correct seeing. And only in that perceived reality or that projected reality can you suffer. You cannot suffer, right? The space of this room cannot suffer. So the point of acceptance is to help you recognize that at your nature, you are free. You are not suffering. That suffering itself is an appearance, which there's a pure allowance of at the very core. So that's decide. But in the actual practice of it, in a simple way. You're bringing your attention away from this constant dialogue to just the sensations that are present right now, perhaps in the body. And please do it now. Because it has to start this way. It has to start with a simple way like this because but when this is done so fully, and we'll walk through it a little bit right now, when this is done so fully, it's no longer just me focusing my attention on the body. It becomes more, you sink more and more deeply into acknowledging yourself as the ever present knowing in which whatever emotion is coming and going is happening, in which whatever circumstance is happening and going. So please see that this simple practice, it goes a long, long way. You just have to be willing. So bringing the attention away from the chatter that's going on, perhaps right now, even about the teaching and what I'm going to do later, what I have for dinner, or I'm not able to get, just turn the attention away from that to the sensations that are present right now. Perhaps there's also a noticing of, again, my voice, right? The sounds that are coming from outside, just the sensations of your body. The thoughts happening. So with this practice, we start with, when there's an emotion or when there's some sort of like anger rising or frustration or worry, turn away from the dialogue and just bring your attention to the very sensations themselves. Many of us have never even experienced this. Many of us don't even know we can do this. Many of us have a feeling that no, the dialogue is too important because it's maintaining my life. All these are perceived notions. They're all projection. They're a part of the illusion. But now with this direction, you're waking up to the you're waking up to this very important seeing that you have the capacity to do this. And when you do this, right, with emotions, you're almost like becoming the space in which the emotions are happening and passing. You're becoming the space which has no conflict with the emotions. You're becoming the space which has no conflict with the thoughts either. The reason I tell you to keep turning away from thoughts is because when thoughts arise, they again hypnotize you into being a thing, being a person. And then you do get the appearance of being a thing which is attached to this and is suffering that. So the only thing to do from thoughts is disengage. You have to bring your attention away. And more, we start to acknowledge that the awareness of the emotion has no agenda towards it. It has no resistance towards it. It has no attachment towards it either. That it is the ground in which the emotion arises and subsides. So it is your practice that as you move in this world, you do what you have to do, right? You take care of your children or your parents or your family and friends. You do your work to the best of your capacity. You have your goals. You take care of your body. You do all the stuff that makes you a person. But throughout all of that stuff and all that it triggers in you, all that it brings to the surface, you have to process through this very simple teaching of acceptance. Through your mental dialogue, you will always remain trapped in the worldly concerns of pain, pleasure, gain, loss, all that stuff. And that will blind you and further entangle you more and more. But in acceptance, through the practice of acceptance, as you move about in the world, the perceived notions of gain and loss, all these attachments and resisting, all this will boil down into just more and more your pure perceiving, pure knowing. I know it sounds abstract and crazy, but to some degree, you've already experienced this. When you do feel at peace, when you do feel happy, that is what is happening. Your your constant clinging and resisting is rested for this moment. But right now, this is incidental. It happens sometimes when the mind relaxes, and sometimes, again, it changes very because there's identification with that level of change. So that's why it feels like our state is fluctuating. We have to become the stateless state. Through what? Through this simple practice and through obviously your meditation, in which you're totally uh, becoming empty. And in the world, when you're moving about, continuing to the best of your capacity, turning the attention just to your actual bare experiencing, the sounds, the sights, the feelings, the sensations, and being alert so fully. Now, when you have to problem solve and you have to work and you have to figure out stuff, be a person fully. Think fully. Don't be like, oh my God, I shouldn't be. No, like you have to problem solve, you have to be a person. Don't resist that either. We're not rejecting personhood. We are seeing at the essence that I am not that. Knowing more and more that I am not that, you gain the capacity to be full on person without getting caught up in the seeming reality of it. I hope that's making sense. And if it's not, I'd love to hear your doubts or fears or confusions or questions about this. But you see, like inwardly, you're becoming so free, and with that, you're able to be in the midst of all the limitations and the restrictions, and the body's full of pain. The outside, the world is full of limitation. My personal life, maybe there's no money or there's no this. You're able to be in the midst of limitation while knowing your freedom. And that will also invigorate your life with a sense of clarity, creativity, spontaneity, adventure, uh, everything that we want our personal lives to be. Also, it flows from this inner freedom, not without it. And you can be so in the fullness of personhood while not getting entangled in the world. And sometimes you will, and sometimes you won't, but that's the spiritual practice. And it's fun. It's not a chore. It's not something I'm working on in my life. It is life. Like, um, it's perhaps the most worthwhile thing you can do, because anything you put your energy in, it will go. It will not remain. So see through your own experience that this should take the first seat in your list of priorities, because this is waking us up to something far greater than this world can offer. With it, if this is something that you want my support in consistently, then you can learn more about my School of Awakening, in which I help people to dissolve mind identification, awaken to their true nature, and become free from suffering their experience. So if that sounds something that is interesting to you, learn more about that below as well in the description box. I'd love to have you as a part of our program. But I hope this video was helpful today, a good guide on how to deal with pain. I'll see you next time.